He interprets some of his dreams to his tutor, and his tutor reveals to him that his unconscious mind is a guileful and impious rascal. Blushes and apologies, Giles says later, apologies and blushes in the monkish book of my tutelage, they illuminate every chapter, head and foot. Max, of course, only shrugged. So what's the maxim for this morning? What it says in the Founder's Scroll, self-knowledge is always bad news. That's his second lesson. His third, like a proper student, he teaches himself a short while afterwards. Never mind what your major is, Max tells him, just so you got one that matters over everything else. Study medicine, study poetry, study road building. It don't much matter what a man spends his life at as long as it's suited to him and he loves it. As was his wont, he delivered this observation with a raised finger, the index necessarily, since it was his maimed right hand. He doesn't have a forefinger. Happening here to catch sight of the mutilation, he paused, lowered hand and voice together, and added, and as long as he don't hurt people with it. Nor should I imagine, he went on to declare, that devoting myself to one project would of necessity cut me off from the rest of the course catalog, as it were. On the contrary, the most encyclopedic geniuses in West Campus history, Intellicus the philosopher, for example, or Leonardi the professor of art and invention during the rematriculation, had been passionate specialists in their way. Their greatness consisted not in declining to commit themselves to specialized projects, but rather in pursuing such projects intensively wherever they led, from ethics to politics to biology, from painting to anatomy to engineering. He himself, Max reminded me, had begun as a student of the violin in Siegfrieder College. His interest in music had led him to study acoustical physics, mathematics, and the psychophysiology of sensation, from which background it had been but a short step, with momentous consequences, to the sciences of artificial thought and automatic regulation. His flight from Bonifacist anti-Moitianism and his consequent involvement with Westcac had fetched him deeply into politics and military science. The pressing of a fateful button had plunged him thence into philosophy, proctology by a route not clear to me then, eventually into herdsmanship, and finally, which was to say currently, into the pedagogical project of making a Phi Beta Kappa out of a goat boy. Nor would he regard his career as finished when I left him to commence my own. For one thing, the experience of tutoring me had suggested to him unsuspected avenues in education and epistemology which he looked forward to pursuing. For another, he didn't regard his past as a journey whose each new step left the earlier ones behind, but as the construction of a many-chambered house in whose finished rooms he dwelt and tinkered while adding new. And all the doors are open, Georgie, he concluded. You can't go through every one at the same time, but they don't ever close unless you close them yourself. Max, you keep interrupting. He seemed less annoyed than uneasy. I do know what I want to major in, I pressed on. It's not anything you've ever studied. Wunderbar, now well. He cocked his head and pretended to search his memory. That leaves open channel hydraulics, school lunch management, coal mine ventilation, and the history of baseball, unless they've changed the new Tammany catalog since I was fired. Which is it? I said, I'm going to be a hero.